So the time is 5:44, and I'll go ahead and call the July 12th, 2021 meeting to order. First thing on our agenda is roll call. Mike Baker.
Sarah Thompson.
Lonnie Rainville and
Pat is on.
Capstone.
Thank you. Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. We can stand.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, swearing in of elected transportation district board members. Cheryl, turns over to you, or
Actually, we're gonna turn that over to Christine. She's our notary.
okay, perfect.
Is that all of us? It's all of us in the room, isn't it? Except for
Except
Mark.
Mark.
I'm the only one that's carried over.
Yep,
Cat.
you
is.
can't, but yeah.
That's true. It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry for the delay. 2 more seconds. That should be printing and I'll get it after. Okay.
And I think we have to do this before we go to the next one, so I don't think I can't skip ahead.
Okay, so
Can we all do it at the same time? And then sign it, we each individually have to sign.
That's how we did it the first time.
I can have you guys swear all at the same time, but to sign it, I will need to do it individually as well as I have to make you do the oath individually aside from it.
Gotcha.
So kind of like when they did you and here, I still ask you guys if you guys still agree to the oath.
Mhm.
So
Form that did the county clerk.
that's the difference between a county clerk and notary though.
Oh.
I have to have.
It goes
individual oath
personally on her.
Good to know.
For absolutely personally on me directly with the Secretary of State.
We give you the blood oath back there.
Yeah. So if you guys want to do it all together, I can definitely do it all together, and then when
One
with
at a time.
signing, I'll just have to do an individual.
That's fine.
That works.
Yeah, we're fine.
So,
Do it all together, move on with the meeting and take care of the individuals later.
Yeah, afterwards.
all right,
Perfect.
up and up then. Okay, I state your name,
I, John
Sarah
Randall,
Thompson.
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of Oregon,
the Constitution of the State of Oregon,
and the laws thereof.
and the laws thereof,
That I will faithfully and honorably perform the duties
that I will faithfully and honorably perform the duties
District Director,
of the Public Transportation District Director,
to which I have been appointed
to which I have been appointed
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
All right.
Welcome, Tom and Janice.
I would note the people, everybody was elected, not appointed.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was
That's
about that.
the-
Elected.
That
That's
is
weird.
what I got from county clerk and confirmed with Secretary of State. That is how.
Well, it's wrong.
That's what I do for a living. Pick things like that.
Yeah, no, I double checked with the county clerk and with the Secretary of State because I have to report directly to both of them.
So item number 5, election of board officers. So we'll go ahead and do 5.1 chairperson, and I'll turn it over to the elected chairperson to take it from here.
So I nominate Lonnie Rainville as chair.
I second.
Close nominations.
Okay.
Any discussion, I guess,
Yeah,
about
Any
how it
discussion?
works or vote?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, I shall continue. We'll go ahead and take nominations for vice chair.
I nominate Sarah Thompson as vice chair.
I'll second it, I guess.
Thomas seconded. Any conversation, comments?
Thanks, Mike.
Hearing none, I'll take the vote. All those in favor?
I,
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
on this last one on secretary, I just would ask that we postpone that until after we discuss the board bylaws. Because it's really, it's an unnecessary position on the board. This was a position that I created when I put the bylaws together originally because we had no staff. And so Christine is actually our recording secretary. So it's not a position that's needed. It's a position that we probably should amend out of our bylaws.
So it is a viable position. Should we go ahead and have a motion to leave it vacated at this point in time?
Okay, I'll move to leave it vacated at this time.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Normally, we wouldn't have a secretary.
No,
Yeah.
no, and we had this discussion earlier on about this, so kind of formality. All those in favor of leaving it vacated?
Hi.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Item number 6, consent agenda, 6.1, June 14th, 2021, regular meeting minutes, and 6.2, June financial report.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public comment on agenda items only. Did we have anybody? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and go to item number 8. New items, 8.1, smart goals for general manager. Who's going to take?
So so this is something I suggested before we talked about John wanted to set some goals and do some stuff. I said we really need to create smart goals for the general manager and to provide that direction. No.
Did you email it to Pat?
And so for you, those of you who aren't familiar with SMART goals, they're goals, but they're specific. They're ones that are measurable, that are attainable, realistic, and timely, generally. And so taking a look at, so rather than sit here and try to develop those amongst the board, I thought maybe I could bring a proposal. Of course, we can always develop other ones. But just looking at the audit findings and at some of our last review, which was, getting some of the reports in on time, which actually won't be her responsibility anymore. But she'll have the overall responsibility as a general manager to make sure they're done. So these are in essentially a chronological order. And for those of you online, I guess maybe we should read them. I'm going to read through.
Please.
There's only there's 14. So it says by July 31st, 2021, revise the vehicle maintenance program to include all system managed vehicles with required preventive maintenance intervals. That's not an issue. By August 1st, 2021, initiate development of lease agreement between UPTD and dial-a-ride vendors, which I think has actually probably already been done. By August 1st, ensure all contractors and UPTD are meeting the drug and alcohol regulations from 49 CFR 655, section 5310. By the way, these also came from Jennifer Boardman, so I had asked her what we did, and Cheryl had kind of provided me some comments on which ones were complete and which ones weren't. So these are all basically weren't at that time. By August 15th, 2021, submit to ODOT the agency periodic report for quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4 for fiscal year 2021. I think some of those have already been, but by August 15th, 2021, submit to ODOT the reimbursement request for quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4 for fiscal year 2021. By August 15th, submit to ODOT the SPR for quarter 3. And I think Jennifer had something in there about quarter 4 was rolled into the stiff or something like that, or so by August 2021, submit new civil rights plan to board for adoption. by August 2021, submit the new Title VI plan to board for adoption. By August, so these are all things that will come up next month, by August 2021, revise UPTD no-show policy in accordance with audit findings. By September 2021, submit revised facility maintenance plan consistent with audit findings to board for adoption. By September 2021, submit to board a system of routine service monitoring that embraces complementary service standards consistent with audit findings. By September 30th, 2021, submit APR for Q4. But I wasn't sure if that was something that we had to do or not, if it was rolled into the stiff and.
That one actually needs to be by August 15th.
The Q4 one?
Mhm.
Okay. And actually, that is already up there, number 4, so we can just cross that one out.
Okay.
By October 1st, 2021, hire new operations manager for UPTD. And then number 14, which is more of an ongoing type 1, submit subsequent quarterly reports, APR, SPR, and reimbursement requests to ODOT within 45 days at the end of each fiscal year quarter. So, any comments or thoughts?
Any comments or thoughts on that?
Do those,
Sound attainable
Yeah.
and yes, and appropriate, yes.
okay, and so you think you could get an operations manager, that was, one I thought by the time you go and, you advertise for a period of time, you interview, over, after a little bit, maybe you have to move or start, get notice on their job, start.
So yes, the process could be well on its way.
It really is
if not
higher, I guess, they don't
complete.
have to start, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think that the salary study and recommendations that were made during the last meeting will make a huge difference in the ability to complete that. Yes.
I think we need to vote on these. I think we probably
I think we
should.
should.
So,
And the only other one that came out in the, that we talked about in the review was communication with the dial-a-ride providers.
Mhm.
So right now we have one dial-a-ride provider, Mercy. And that person will actually be handled through the operations manager that gets hired. So
I
I
guess
didn't really put anything there.
my only comment is, this is great and kind of gets us through October, but we'll probably want to look at this, reevaluate and put a longer term set of goals moving forward after this.
Yeah, I wanted to at least hit all the audit stuff, make sure that that's all spelled out in there. And then really our other biggest issue really was, getting the reports and reimbursement requests all in time. I mean, the longer term ones are, there's a transit development master plan underway. So, getting that done in a timely manner, which looks like it's going really good. What I heard this morning.
Sure, doesn't have a lot of control over that one. I think that's being driven by ODOT, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah, I provide a lot of information to him for it.
It's an UPTD plan, so it's not an ODOT plan. It's funded by ODOT, but it's an UPTD plan.
Kittleson and Associates are the
For the
consultant.
contractor. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never know, right? Exactly what happens during the planning process. Something could come up. They always do, it seems like. But anyway, this one sounds like it's going along really, really well. I'm not sure what else is out there, but we could probably get that one front, but.
Kat, do you have anything you want to add?
No, thank you.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve the SMART goals for the general manager.
I'll make the motion to approve the suggested SMART goals for the general manager.
Do I have a second? I will second it. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Pass. Great. Work on that. 8.2.
I thought it would save a lot of time.
Yeah. Salary range for general manager. Cheryl, is this you?
It is, so the salary range information was provided during the last meeting. But Christian went ahead and printed it out again, just the portion that was specific to the general manager salary study. So that shows the 3 different salary studies that we took a look at, as well as the wage scale for basic transit. And that was provided because it is a good example of steps in a salary range. And then the very last thing was the salaries for comparable positions in across Oregon. And of course, throwing out the high and the low, it gives you the average salary for the transit managers across Oregon.
And I think on the operations and finance manager, I think those are the only 2 that we did. We generally accept it what it was. There's a slight difference, I think, on one, but generally it's what it shows here.
So the last page, the recommendation.
Yes, somewhere between 85 to 113,000. That's the range.
So each one of those would be a step. Is that the way I'm reading this?
So that would be the range, the recommended range, the range that was a result of the national RTAP study was between 87 and 124,000. And then the range between the.
And that was 2019, right?
Yes. And the range recommended by the, this, was it the CTA? No, it was the transit talent one, was between 85 and 150,000. So a much larger range. So that it's really at the discretion of the board to determine how big of a range that you want that to cover.
I think the recommended one makes a lot of sense, keeps it kind of tight. The white one, yeah. 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 Yeah.
You said nice and tight.
Yeah, that's tight. The one that's 85 to 1.
Does this have the
14
changes that we voted on at the last meeting?
No,
No,
Okay.
the finance manager, we voted on 75,000 as a starting wage, and I believe the operations manager at 70.
I just brought forward the same exact document that was provided to us.
Okay.
Anybody have anything for Cheryl? Board a motion to approve the recommended range for the general manager.
to make the general manager salary between 85,000 and 113. Let's just say 114.
In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Hearing none.
Fill in one of these categories.
Mhm.
So since you know we just have a general manager salary,
So usually we place based on experience.
right? So I would make a motion to place the current general manager at 98,398.13 or whatever, step 1, 2, 3, 4.
Do you by chance have a resume, just so we know your years of experience? Because off
Yes.
the top of my head, I don't know how long you've been doing this, so.
I do. So I have it easily accessible if you'd like me to print it. But I started as the transit manager for UTrans in 2013. So I've been the transit manager for 8 years, and 2 of those being as UPTD, the combination.
Second, Mike's motion to place the general manager in step 4.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments? Do they have anything? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I think it would, so. Well, let's go to, not on the agenda.
So item 8.3 COLA. Cheryl.
So the cost of living increases are pretty common in a lot of organizations. We had briefly touched on that in one of our meetings. And so what I did is I just put together a real quick summary here. Our total payroll liability for the previous fiscal year was $950,933. A 2% COLA on that amount would be an increase for the entire year of $19,018. If we were looking at a 3%, it would be $28,527. 4% would be $38,037. 5% is usually not heard of, but I thought I'd throw it in there just for fun. A 3% increase for most of our hourly employees would be approximately 50 to 60% or cents per hour, and that is something that is written into our budget. We have the funding available to do it.
At 3% or 2%?
Either way, there's enough.
Well, I mean, if we did 3, obviously, we did 2, but
Yeah.
we budgeted at 3. Okay, that's all.
So let me ask you this, when we approved the budget, what had you approved as far as increases for your drivers or for the staff?
So there is up to 5% for performance increases, but then the COLA we had put in as 3%.
So a total of 8,
possibility of 8.
okay?
It's not automatic, is that what I understand?
Yeah,
It's
the
just the
performance
budget
is not
projection.
automatic.
But that amount is budgeted for 8%,
Yes,
and that was already included the COLA as a part of that,
Yes.
that was approved. Okay. So now you're just bringing forward the formal request to.
yes. So Laura with Leaner Davidson is the one who had recommended that we put it in there as a just in case. It was one of those conversations we had that where we discussed the fact that it had never been approved by the board, but that it should be brought to the board.
Which employees does this cover?
Actually, it covers all employees.
Okay.
Yeah.
Including management.
But when you look at management, there's really only 3 of us.
Yeah.
And one just came on board 2 weeks ago. And then Shelley has been here for, well, she's been on board with us at UPTD for a year. So it would include her.
You need a motion on that?
I'm just gonna see what it was in the consumer price index.
Around 2 points, well, right now it's off the charts.
Well, it's, yeah, this one's showing Portland at 3.9. There's a
Typically it's around
CPI, like
2.6.
industrial or something like that. I forget what it's called, but yeah, that you look at versus the regular one.
I think the annual is supposed to be somewhere around 2.6%, 2.8. See that anywhere on that, for annual? Or is it just,
I see a cost of living has increased 3.9% in Portland, but it's also just in Portland.
so what is your recommendation as far as your percent of increase?
2.9, is that what you said?
That's
That's
2.8.
Yeah.
Is that 2.9?
2.9, that's what it says.
Then it sounds like 3% is right on the money. I would only recommend the 3% because of the extreme increase in everything in the last, especially the last 6 months, but just the price of gas has gone up $1. So getting to work is becoming expensive for some of them that come in from Elkton and Drain and areas like that.
So yeah, I will take a motion.
I'll make a motion to set the COLA rate at 3% for this
Fiscal year.
fiscal year 2021,
22.
22, sorry.
Second,
Second.
by Mark. All those in favor?
I,
Opposed? Motion carried. I guess the one thing that I would request is that we have this conversation as a part of the budget conversation and we approve it at that point in time. So I think
Absolutely.
we're allowed to that fact that we're still getting our feet underneath this a little bit. Ethics policy. Carol?
So the ethics policy I presented at the last meeting and it was opted to bring it forward to this meeting. One of the things that came to light in the RFP process, especially in the arena where we were discussing conflict of interest or potential conflict of interest, what we found is the reason that it was such an issue that we had to disqualify the vendor as a potential conflict of interest is we did not have a strong enough ethics policy that set a repercussion in the event that something were to go sideways. So if there were an issue with the declared conflict of interest, this one, it states at the very end, failure to meet these standards will result in investigation and depending on the outcome, result in discipline up to and including separation. So that clause is required in order for us to have a strong enough conflict of interest or ethics policy to cover some of the situations we've recently encountered.
and Ron's looked this over.
Yes.
And this covers us as well, right?
Yes, this is, so that was something else that I was not aware of until I started doing the research is public officials, you as a board are the elected public officials, but we as the employees of the district are the district employee public officials. So that was a new way of looking at things for me. And kind of shed a lot of light on the process we just walked through with the RFP.
Do we want to go through it at all since we have a couple new members? Here's what things
I wasn't here last meeting, so this is kind of my first eyes on this as well, so.
Oh, okay. So this is actually, the template comes from special districts and it is specifically geared toward government entities. And it gives that definition of public official in the beginning and it covers gifts and the limit for anyone to receive being $50. So that's any board member or any employee. And then it does cover your use of your official position or office that you may not use it or attempt to use your official position or office to obtain financial gain or avoidance of financial detriment for the public official, a relative or member of the household of the public official, or any business with which the public official or relative or member of the household of the public official is associated, if the financial gain or avoidance of financial detriment would not otherwise be available but for the public official's holding of the position of office. And it lists the exceptions as any part of an official compensation package as determined by the public body, and the receipt of public official or relative or member of the household of public official of an honorarium or any other item allowed under ORS 244.042. Oh, and it goes on. For reimbursement of expenses, an unsolicited award for professional achievement, gifts that do not exceed the limit specified in ORS 244.025, received by a public official or a relative or member of the household of the public official from a source that could reasonably be known to have a legislative or administrative interest. Gifts received by a public official or relative or member of the household of the public official from a source that could not reasonably be known to have a legislative or administrative interest. The receipt by a public official or a relative or member of the household of the public official of any item regardless of value that is expressly excluded from the definition of gift in ORS 244.020. Contributions made to a legal expense trust fund established under ORS 244.209, application to establish a fund for the benefit of the public official. And it goes on to address that a public official may not solicit or receive either directly or indirectly, and a person may not offer to give or may not offer or give to any public official any pledge or promise of future employment based on understanding that the vote, official action, or judgment of the public official would be influenced by the pledge or promise. And it continues on. And it's a pretty complete list.
The next paragraph though, has a typo.
Does
In
it?
it says a public official may not attempt to further or further, so I think just get rid of the.
To
or
further or further?
Yeah.
Okay. To further the personal gain of the public official, yes, through the use of confidential information.
That's in the next paragraph too.
That's interesting.
And the next paragraph, it says attempt to represent or represent, or maybe it is attempt to represent or represent a client. Okay, I guess.
Well, they
that was
could-
fine. That was
Oh,
fine.
think it is
attempt
Attempt
to.
to.
Oh, are they
or-
back to?
or-
It
It's like
is.
actually
Or
further.
actual. It is
Okay.
meant to be there.
I was thinking, how did I manage
Oh, and that's why
that?
the or furthers are fine, so.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Attempt to further or
correct.
further, yes, okay, well, I feel much better now. And it also defines honoraria as well.
So when I go speak at the Rotary and they donate a shot for, what is it they donate? Diabetes or something like that, or not for diabetes, some disease. I have to donate that shot to somebody else. Turn it in.
I don't know, it depends on how much it costs.
So for the school board, we have a school board appreciation week, and so instead of giving us anything, they have the kids make the school board members something right from each school, so you get from something from first through third graders or sixth graders, it's pretty good. So we don't actually get the value.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's valuable. to the kids.
Invaluable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any comments on the proposed ethics policy?
Mhm.
Seems fairly boilerplate.
Mhm.
And then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to adopt the ethics policy.
I'll second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Carries. Old business, board bylaws review.
Did we provide this?
And the protocols,
I didn't realize they weren't in here.
and the protocols too.
All right.
So while you're doing that, I know the one thing that I think we're all in agreement on is as far as the bylaws, we probably remove that secretary position out of it. So we probably want to go ahead and make that.
There's other ones that I would propose that we make in there as well, and that is a term limit for the chair. I think that doesn't make sense. I think you have the election at least every couple of years, because you have an election every couple of years. So, you know, a term should probably be not for a year, probably should be for 2 years until the next election.
I don't know.
You can go and then just rather than have an election every year, and then
I know
if
that
you want a different board president, you put someone else in.
all the ones I've been on, we've had them, you renew it every year. If you want to keep it the same, you can do so, but it's
Yeah.
renewed annually.
Yeah.
Each year.
So I guess we could do it annually, but yeah. I just get rid of that term limit.
What is the current term?
What is the term
It's
limit?
like 2 terms.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
but that's contingent on you actually getting reelected.
It's 2
That's
terms,
unlimited.
period. Right. So, yeah, but it normally, again, which is how it happens on most boards, but in this board, it doesn't do that.
They changed the bylaws
Yeah.
about a year and a half ago.
Did you have something to say, Pat?
It's all time of the year that we should-
Something about internet connection.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
I
Makes
caught that,
sense.
'cause-
I heard connection, but that's all I.
Yeah.
I thought she said election.
There she is.
There she is.
Oh,
She had to come back.
muted.
It says the host muted everyone.
Okay, there you go.
We can hear you now.
Okay, good. If I don't want to bring up changes to the bylaws right now while I'm not physically present at the meeting. So is there a time when we can do this later on in the year? I don't know how often we can make changes. It seems like we did the middle of last year.
Well, I don't think there's any limit to it, right?
No, it's
That's,
review.
that's all I
and-
wanted to know.
And we wouldn't be changing the bylaws today anyway. We're just talking about proposing changes, and then they have to be drafted, and then we would have to discuss them.
Well, here, my recommendation is that we each take a copy home with us tonight, review it, and then at our next meeting, we can then discuss what we've seen.
Yeah.
So I don't think any of us are prepared to make recommendations for changes for tonight.
That's awesome.
Okay.
And the board protocols are just things that we treat each other with respect and that kind of stuff. I think it's pretty much.
We actually do that annually it's a part of our, like the election of boards, we actually have to recertify our board protocols for the school board.
Yeah.
We do that annually as part of our procedural thing for the renewal of each year, so.
It's not a bad idea, but most boards I've.
Well, and I think it's been
But
a
that's
year
good
since
idea.
we did it, because we did it
Yeah.
last summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're
I'm totally fine with that.
doing it annually. It's
Yes,
just
it-
Not on
It
purpose.
says that we will do that.
We actually sign off, there's a little thing that we sign off on that we give, it's filed away, so.
It's nice to do because like I said, you end up with a new board almost every election, so.
Yes, new people, new thoughts.
Does anybody have any issue with us moving on to
Nope.
general manager report while we're?
Alrighty, so I went back to just listing the primary things that I've been working on for the month. there was a period of time where we had moved away from that, but it's harder for me to track on it. So one of the projects that I've been working on quite a bit is the transit master plan. So that involves multiple meetings with Kittleson and Associates and providing information to them. We created the driver survey and the survey for the general public, and we did just get those surveys out on our website. And we've got a new tab placed on our website that is public engagement, and the survey is on that public engagement page. We got it out on Facebook as well. I did the vehicle that you mentioned earlier. We completed that purchase and took delivery of that vehicle and have assigned it to Mercy. I did engage with Kimberly at Knowledge and Mobility to complete the RFQ for 2 STIF funded vans because we do have 2 STIF funded vans that were in our previous plan that we had not completed the purchase for those. And then I do have 4 RFQs in process for 7 vans, 2 Class C vehicles, and 1 Class D vehicle.
And remind me, the higher the letter, the bigger the vehicle, right?
No,
The
the
other way?
other way around. Yeah.
Okay.
So the vans are E1s. And the Class C are the 23 passenger buses.
Okay.
And then the Class D is a 16 passenger 3 ADA stations. So just getting those all complete. They've been in process for so incredibly long. So that's a huge thing to have off my plate. And now as they come back in, one of our vendors got hacked, so they got ransomware and they were not available. They didn't have any of their information available to be able to complete their RFQ, and they are one of 2 vendors that are on the state price agreement for that size of vehicle, the larger buses. So we did extend the deadline in order to allow them the opportunity to bid as well. And once those RFQs come back, we just go through the process of determining the ones, thank you, that are gonna meet the most of our specifications, and the cost also plays into that. But we did do a best value on all of these RFQs because of the chassis shortage, so that we can score on how soon that we'll be able to take delivery. That's a huge thing. And whether or not they're able to meet all of our required specifications as well as the preferred specifications. So we'll make that selection and then go to ODOT with a PO, and then the process for the build starts. But they're looking at just about a year till we get most of these vehicles. We did confirm that date for board training, and Jennifer Boardman with ODOT had reached out to me and asked if we would mind, because it's a virtual training, allowing CCAT to also participate in that. And as a result, she did put it out there, and we have over 70 people that are going to be participating in our board procurement training. And I believe that's on the 26th of July. So that speaks to the need of that type of training. It's that we are not unique in needing that kind of training. So we did go through the open enrollment process for all of the employee benefits, and there were not many changes at all. Just our prescription plan, but the cost for our employee benefits remained really close to the same as well. We implemented a new phone system that allows our calls for the dial ride calls to queue instead of rolling over into voicemail and having to have the calls returned. It also has a lot of different options where we can monitor a call, so live monitor, and provide feedback to the dispatchers. We can also record the calls. So the calls coming into the dispatch center are on a constant record, and I believe it holds for 30 days, something like that.
So we have a thing on there that says you call and
Yes.
you record it.
Yep. So navigating this has been kind of interesting. It sounded like it was going to be a lot simpler task than what it ended up being. There were a lot of tech support meetings that we had to go through and figure out how that call tree was going to fall. And then we got our IT folks with Cortec involved as well, and they came and installed the, what do you call that? The piece that you can answer with your computer.
Oh, the portal, it was a specific hardware thing that they had to install into the hard drive specifically for the supervisor to be able to monitor everything in order for the phone queue itself to pull into her computer. And then aside from that, it was just making sure that everybody had access through the server to the cloud.
Yeah, so it's been kind of an involved process. We went live on 6/18 and we've had a couple of learning opportunities since then, because the calls are all forwarded to our voicemail. Well, you can choose that, but that's what most of us chose, so that it'll pop up as a voicemail that you can listen to in your email, and which is pretty common, but we weren't aware that you still had to delete those voicemails out of your queue. Otherwise it fills up. So we did have one weekend where nobody could leave a message over the weekend. So it's just been a learning process. And so beyond that, of course, you know, we navigated the review of that second RFP process. We completed the award of Umpqua Rides contract to Mercy Express. That contract has been executed and the vehicle lease is in place. It's kind of still a live document because we're still moving vehicles. And they are increasing from 60 hours of service a week to 120 hours of service a week. And we have extended the contract with City of Reedsport for 2 months to provide time to do a 3-bid process with the state funding for demand response service in the Reedsport area. And we did provide that information to Deanna with City of Reedsport. And then we'll be having a conversation with them. Right now, we're waiting to get on the new the replacement, Oregon Buys replacement for Orpin. When I registered us on Orpin, I was still a UCAN employee. And so my UCAN email address is the recovery address for the password recovery. So I can't get in and I can't get logged into the Buy Oregon yet. As soon as we do that though, as soon as I get logged into Buy Oregon, we'll be able to post the RFQ on Buy Oregon and send it to 3 possibilities in the Reedsport area. And then we go through a little simpler process than what our RFP was. So hopefully that will work out.
And they know that's coming.
Yes.
And what was the atmosphere with that? Was she?
Receptive?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't want to lose the Dollar Ride program. And I don't blame them. They have built it for many years, and they run a really good program. They provide thousands of rides, and they provide rides to Coos Bay, and you know, they do a really good job. And we would be hard pressed to find employees and be able to manage employees in that area and do as good of a job as what City of Reedsport does. So I'm really hoping that we're able to work this out sooner than later and easier than this last process that we just went through. We did receive a bid protest from NDB, and I talked that through with ODOT, and I also discussed it with Ron Sperry, and then I responded to that bid protest from the NDB. I interviewed 5 drivers.
Has about provided a response back yet, or?
So she did provide a response that now that the bid protest had been responded to, that she would like to take us up on the client-only service offer. Unfortunately, her request for client-only service stated, we don't have clients and we don't want to do client-only service, we want to do dial-a-ride service. But they were considered non-responsive for the dial-a-ride service, therefore we can't extend them a dial-a-ride contract. And by their statement in their request, we don't have clients, we couldn't offer them that client-only contract either. So I had to respond and say, I'm so sorry, but this.
Yeah, I was just wondering if ODOT responded, because the appeal is to ODOT, right?
Oh, so that did respond. Jennifer, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, we actually did not do a response because it is a local issue because of the way that the wording is in your guys's protest. So it had to come directly from the district or from the general manager. So we could not respond.
Why can't they do demand response like Reedsport?
City of Reedsport did not apply and they were not deemed non-responsive. City of Reedsport is an area that we would have difficulty covering. And so we can do an RFQ for state funds and get 3 or ask for 3 bids, seek 3 bids. And
So we don't have difficulty covering North County?
no, we're already covering North County. We reached out to the primary writers in that area, and what our dispatch found is they had all been told they would not be able to receive rides anymore, and so they were ecstatic to find out that we were providing service, even more so that the service hours and days are expanded. So the folks that we've talked to so far are really happy with the way that it's turned out for them.
So they actually have more service.
They do, yeah. So we do have
And how about that
go ahead.
from up there from Drain? How about that getting people back to Roseburg on that long?
On the Lane Douglas connector, this absolutely facilitates that. So it not only will get the gentleman that's regularly back to Elkton, but it would get anybody that ended up in so we're using a 16 passenger small bus to provide the service. It holds 3 mobility devices. And so we have the opportunity to provide rides for more people at one time. And we're going to continue with the shopping trips that they take to Cottage Grove. That's something that they're very used to doing. And also with the 1 day a week to Roseburg as well. The advantage to this is that they're not limited to just that one trip. We're able to provide rides prior to the trip. They can take the trip, be gone for 2 hours, come back, and then we can still provide rides in that area. So Right now, we have one vehicle that is covering the Oakland, Yoncalla, Drain, Elkton area. If we need to add another vehicle to cover that area, we will do that.
That includes
Right.
some,
Yeah, we're working on Sutherland too. We're working on putting a vehicle just for Sutherland. Yeah. All right. We did bring 5 new drivers on for the district. Initially, 2 of those drivers were supposed to be bus drivers, but they do have experience in demand response. So for right now, until we bring more drivers on, they're going to be doing that demand response as well. 4 of those drivers accepted. 1 of them backed out and asked us if we could keep his application handy. We brought on a new finance manager who has already made my life incredibly easier. And she is streamlining all the things that have made it difficult for me to do, like the reporting on time. One of the first things that she did is went into our payroll program and assigned everybody to the appropriate buckets based on our budget. So now the program is doing the work, and she did that while I was away. So
Did she come to a meeting to be introduced by chance?
she has not.
Can you invite her?
Absolutely. Mhm. Yes, I think that you will find that she's a really, really good fit for us. So I handed off the payroll process to her, and we have just been breaking her in to all of the grants and everything the way it was and everything the way it's going to be. And so that's just an ongoing process. I did have a provider that I found significant discrepancies in one of their reports, which caused me to go back and review their previous reports. And I had missed the terminology that was used was volunteer wages. And so when I'm looking at a report, to me, wages are paid out to a person and a volunteer. So if you've got volunteer wages, then maybe I volunteered to go take that ride. And so that's what I thought was happening. And I did not question it for 4 quarters. And then it was only due to another discrepancy within the report that made me go and look deeper. And what I found was that what was listed as volunteer wages was actually the federal estimated cost of a volunteer, and so.
What their time is worth.
Yes, but not actually wages paid to them. So we did catch that and do a revision, and
Well, that's an understandable one. I mean, that's kind of what I would guess too. I probably saw that on the form.
yeah. So let's see. We did make our first payment on this building. That was due here in June. So that's pretty exciting. And of course, I provided the information for Tom and Janice to be able to research into ODOT and FTA and board bylaws and protocols, things of that nature. We have to give props to Christine. She got the YouTube channel up and running. So we now have an Umpqua Public Transportation District YouTube channel that has all of our Zoom meetings since January. Yes.
It's not as easy as it sounded.
Are we keeping them on? So on those recordings, how long, I guess, what's the timeline that we just keep them forever on that?
I think it's a
No,
year.
we're only required to for about a year.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So every year we'll kind of,
We'll start dumping off.
yes.
Yep, and of course, as you know, we just completed the budget process for the 21-22 fiscal year. And I had just prepared that ethics policy during June for the board to review. We did complete the release of 4 vehicles, the titles from ODOT, so we sent them to auction. They were the Class C buses that they should have been retired a couple of years ago. They all had over 400,000
Like the
miles
white
on them.
ones or whatever.
Some of them were white, one of them was, oh, I think we kept the blue one, huh?
I'm
I
not
think it's the
sure.
blue one we kept.
I did receive that back in the mail, by the way.
Oh, good. So those vehicles are supposed to be 7 years or 150,000 miles is where we're supposed to replace them. So they were all 11 years and 11 years and 400,000 miles. So they were way overdue for a replacement.
That's a lot for maintenance.
It was
Actually,
an outlandish amount. So
what was the Secretary of State office inquiry?
So they have inquired about our March meeting and just had asked me some questions about the process.
What were the questions? Were they,
Whether or not I was aware that there was an executive session and whether or not I had been asked prior to the session whether or not I was aware that my performance was going to be discussed, and then whether or not I was given the option for an open hearing. Real simple.
any questions for Cheryl?
I'm going doing my errands on Saturday and see the bus running around. How's our ridership on Saturdays?
So ridership on Saturdays is running about 60 people right now.
That's not bad.
Not too bad.
That's a lot.
Well, so our ridership, that's the next part here. Our ridership for the year is about half of what it normally is. It's half of what it was the year before. We were right about 100,000 the year before COVID hit. That will forever be our place mark in time. So we only had a total ridership of 49,258 for the 1920 fiscal year. And I came on board in 2008. And we were at 89,000 that year. So COVID had a significant impact, that's for sure. But our ridership is climbing. We were back up over 200 a day that we're collecting. And then we did have, Crystal does a really good job of breaking everything out. So this report gives, the front page is fixed route ridership. So the Roseburg fixed route, Winston-Sutherland commuter, and the South County commuter, and the ridership per month, and then the total ridership. Then the second page gives all of our demand response services. So the paratransit and all of the various different dial-a-rides that we've had going. So you can see that we had about 23,580 total ridership on the demand response. That is less than half. And part of that is because we used to be able to put 9 people on a vehicle if we wanted to make it full. With COVID, we've been reduced to only 2 people per vehicle, but those restrictions are coming off now. We still have to maintain the 6 feet from the driver, but the spacing within the vehicle has been reduced. So we can start packing them on there pretty soon.
Why is January highlighted?
January, that is when we started fare collection. So the paratransit ridership changed. We had only been tracking it as paratransit until December. So you can see we were running.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, right about 500, 550, high of 595 there. But when we started charging fares again, then people started requesting a dial-a-ride. So they qualify for both. for paratransit and for dial-a-ride. The difference being a paratransit ride is a guaranteed ride and the dial-a-ride is a space available. Yeah. Yeah, so that's why you see it starting to be broken out into the two different buckets there, because we started providing that overflow. So the year before COVID hit, the ridership for demand response was up close to 70,000. So we're at about a third of what we were previously. All right, and I think that about covers it for me. There's one for medical transportation. So we did bring another driver on for medical transportation, which brings us up to 7 drivers now. She started at the end of June though, so that wasn't a significant change in the number of rides that we provided. We are finding that we are providing more rides now with the medical transportation funding for people who don't, they can't afford paratransit. Dial-a-ride doesn't, well, it does now, but it didn't run during those hours. And they needed life-saving like dialysis treatments, you know. So we were able to use this funding, the medical transportation funding, to provide rides for
Those
people.
ones that fall in between the cracks there.
Mhm. Yeah,
Are the medical ones, are those volunteers that use their own vehicles? Mileage, is that what it is?
it depends. That's primarily how we want to provide it. But if there's not a volunteer available and there is space available on one of our vans, we'll go ahead and put them on
You
that.
just pay back that
Yeah.
piece, yeah, that percentage.
Yeah, and we're trying to work on the new verbiage for dispatch and for the drivers, that we are employ rides as an umbrella that covers the paratransit, which is that guaranteed ride, but that's a $4 charge. And you have to be approved and live within the service area, or the ride has to begin and end within the service area. But the dial-a-ride, then it's a donation-based ride, and you should also be a senior or a person with a disability. And that's on a space available, and then the medical transportation. So the dispatchers could be scheduling any one of those 3 types of rides, and the drivers could be taking any one of those 3 types of rides. And they could be boom, 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 all in a row, paratransit, and then a dial-a-ride, and then a medical transport, or their whole day could be all one type of ride. It just depends. So we're getting the dial-a-ride vans as they come back. We're getting them outfitted with fare boxes to make that whole process more uniform across the board. It's safer. They're locked into place. So we don't have any drivers that are carrying their cash in a manila envelope in the glove box. So that's that.
Perfect. I want to jump back to old business. We now have copies of the board of directors bylaws and the board of directors protocols. I think we should take the time over the next month to review these and come back prepared to discuss them at that time. So if there's no objection, we'll kind of go that route with it. All right, item number 11, ODOT update, Jennifer Boardman.
Good evening. Just want to remind everybody about the board training on the 26th. That is a request of RLS and part of your compliance findings. So that was scheduled specifically for you as the board. It is scheduled at 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock. And the gentleman that's doing the training is actually in Ohio. You should receive or should have already received a invitation to that. Okay, I did send them to the Umpqua Transit. I kind of had to guess on the addresses because I never got anything from staff. So if you guys could confirm that, their addresses, so that we can ensure that they are going to get that. It will be a virtual because he's in Ohio. And like Cheryl said, I did ask her if we could open it up because I have several board members from CCAT that I wanted to try to get in on the training. And then I just had a flood of people asking if they could also take the training. And so there will be approximately 70-ish people online. And it should be pretty good, very thorough on the procurement process so that you guys are clear on what we have to do and what Cheryl has to do as far as procuring goods and services going forward. The other thing, I don't know if Cheryl, if you sent out the information about the training through the special districts, there's a really good training that's coming up and it's specifically designed for boards as well. And I would encourage you to take that training if possible. And I think they had several dates available for that one, and some virtual, some in person. I signed up for one that's a virtual one through, I think, in Astoria at the end of this month. So the virtual ones are definitely less cost than the in-person, but those in-person classes are pretty nice. We also have additional training that's going to be coming up in August, and I believe it's the second week of August, and it's grant management training. So you guys just received 7 grants, and it's a substantial amount of money. These trainings provide you with the information as far as what is required, the reporting that's required for it. And this is stuff that Cheryl does, but it's also really important for the boards to understand all that she has to do in order to ensure that she gets this funding and it continues. So I encourage you to take that, and those will be recorded and they're going to be modules. So you can take them anytime that you want to. They will be on our website, and those will be coming August, I think the week of the 9th through the 14th or something like that. But then they will be available at probably a couple weeks later. And then the other training that is available that's going to be coming up is our annual conference, but it's going to be virtual. We are not having a live conference this year. It's in October, and those will also be virtual. And I haven't seen the format yet, whether it's going to be all in one day or whether they're breaking up the sessions, but those should be really good sessions. There'll be specific things for boards. There'll be specific things for staff, opportunities for you to see some of the new equipment that's out there. So it should be pretty good. It's not as good as in person, but it's the next best thing. And we were told last week that we were going to be able to start traveling, so maybe I'll be at the next meeting. I didn't have time to get approval because I have to get approval prior to traveling. And then the other thing I just want to encourage, I'm glad to hear that you guys set goals for Cheryl, because we definitely want to get those reports in. Reports, especially those that the funding expired on June 30th, those reports have to be in no later than August 27th. And if you don't get them in before that date, then that funding goes away. So I really want to encourage you, because we are still waiting on several reports. So encourage you, and I'm assuming since you have your financial person to help you now, you're going to be able to get those knocked out. But we have several that we're waiting on still. So other than that, encouraging people to order vehicles early, which Cheryl's got Kimberly working on those, which is great to have her because she's very familiar with those processes. And yeah, I think that's it. Any questions?
The reports that are currently late, I think at our next meeting, we can have where we're at on those.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I am holding, I think we have about $120,000 that I'm holding that Marcia won't let me release until we get up to date. So there's quite a substantial amount of money in STF that I'm holding until we get those reports up to date.
Okay, so we'll have that part of our agenda filled. Okay,
Yes.
thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, I had a question, just about the procurement training. I haven't got that email. So I don't know if I need to, how I can get you the correct email.
Yeah, that would be great, because I do not, you are one of the people that I don't have your email address, so.
Actually, don't know it offhand because I just got it recently.
Yeah, or if you have a different email, like Kat asked me to send it to her home email address, so I have that one listed. So if you have a different email address other than your Umpqua that you want to use, you can send that as well. And I will pop my email into the chat, and then you can.
How do I send it to you?
Well, you can copy it down, and then you can just send me.
Yeah.
I think I have it.
Okay.
I got the email.
I got it on my Umpqua Transit email. I
That's
just
fine.
looked,
Okay.
that's what I was looking for.
I haven't even accessed mine yet, so.
Yeah, I can write down your email and contact you.
Get that email on the training, because that's something you
I
forward out
got
there,
the
but
email about the training, I didn't get anything else for it, I just got the
It's just that
initial one.
It's just the webinar link.
Yeah, I don't have that.
Oh, I have it. I can forward
I
it.
got
Forward it out.
I think there were 2 emails. that came
Yeah, I
out.
got something
I only got
to
one.
email Jennifer to register for it, and that was it, but I haven't had time to get around to emailing her to ask.
I asked, I sent an email quite a while back asking if I could get the email addresses for all of the staff, and haven't gotten them, all the boards folks.
can we get that to Jennifer so she? Should be coming your way, Jennifer.
It will.
Thank you.
All right. Next on our agenda is not on agenda items. Does anybody have anything that's not on the agenda?
Yeah, so there's
You
a
said
couple,
you
but
did.
I did, but I was trying to think what the other one was. I had 2. Well, the first one, main one, was just talking about Cheryl's contract.
Mhm.
So it expired April 1st. So we need to renew that. And we had made a motion before to go out and do an RFP for a general manager.
Mhm.
And I'm kind of thinking about that, and I think I talked to you one time about that, Lonnie, but I don't know if I mentioned it or not, maybe I did. But I was just, it was in passing, and other stuff, but just thinking that, she's really in a position, or has been in a position since she started here of doing everything all by herself.
Mhm.
So, I mean, she's been essentially the operations manager, the general manager, the finance manager, the human resources specialist, and which included getting rid of the operations manager that we had briefly, and, because that takes a lot of time. So just, it's a lot of time consuming things, and so I don't worry too much about having, I know ODOT wants the quarterly reports in, I haven't worried too much about it, as long as they get done by August, which is why those are there. Because frankly, I would let those go too if I'm having to put out fires and do a lot of things. And Cheryl herself, I think, told us at her last meeting, that she wishes she could be doing more, but she can't focus on her job as general manager because she's having to do all these other jobs too. And I think everybody would be in that same boat. Having said that, I think, she's quite knowledgeable, in the transit arena. With Umpqua Transit, and really you think about all the things that we have accomplished as a district, in the last year of just setting up the whole agency of, the purchasing, all the hiring and interviews that have had to happen, the purchasing of this building, the purchasing of the land next door. There's just been a whole host of, she wrote the whole STIF plan, all the money that we have, we wouldn't have any of it if it wasn't for her, who spent weekends and nights and day on it, 40 hours was nothing. That's a probably vacation for her. And so just all the things that she's done. And so you know, I think the expectation that we're gonna have all these things on time, given all that we've done and all the positions she's had to hold, it's not really a realistic one, and it's kind of a, I think we set her up for failure as a board. Because we didn't really provide the resources, which we've just recently done. So this last month, and then this month of establishing finally salary level so that we can hire, and it wasn't that she hasn't put, I believe she's put announcements out for hiring these positions, but either get people that are basically totally unqualified, that are just, you know, that send your resume to everybody, kind of thing that we saw earlier. Or you just don't get anybody. So I think the salary ranges are set appropriate. I think we're finally getting her the help we need. And I would just promote that rather than going out, that we actually just hire her as a general manager with a new contract. And we can talk about the particulars of that contract another time, but I would just propose that we hire her as a manager.
All right.
And oh, the other piece, now I remember what the other piece was, so it's sort of related to this. Going back to the other piece where we made the salary, where we made the salary decision, I would make that as, rather than going all the way back to April on that one, I think I would just make that, and I hope Cheryl's okay with that, just make it July 1st. This July 1st, I don't know, what do you think? I mean, we didn't talk about an effective date, but.
Well, I would assume that because it was.
Because we budgeted, that's why I'm thinking is we budgeted in this budget year.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we didn't budget it in the previous budget year, so to me, it would make sense.
That'd be the assumption that's
But
everybody.
it has to be okay with Cheryl too, because this is a two-way street.
So I've been without a contract since April.
Right.
But you're right, it wasn't budgeted in the budget to go retroactive. I would like to see it go retroactive, but
Well, and the fact that the salary was just set with the July 1 as the effective on it, so. The one we just approved.
Yeah, because it was for fiscal year
2022.
22.
So originally I was thinking that maybe we'd go back, but then I thought, you know, the budget and all of that, we didn't do it, that maybe that's the right way to go, I think. In doing that.
I think I could live with that.
And I think the other piece about all of that is we are also have put ourselves in a very tenuous situation. That basically if Cheryl left, you just lost your general manager, your operations manager. You know, so to run the agency would be quite difficult to do at this point, so.
Does anybody else have any comment on?
I agree. I think we shoot ourselves in the foot.
Yeah.
Did that.
What does her original contract say?
General manager.
No, not for that. I want, can you get me a copy, not right this minute, but I want to review the original.
Actually, can you send the
contract.
contract out to all of us so that we get a chance to review it?
Absolutely.
Can we table that conversation until next month?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up and kind of get just where people.
I
what are
would
you thinking?
suggest making a motion to extend her contract at the new rate through October. The line is on our smart goals while we're reviewing
Mhm.
the contract
Didn't I see her
language.
last, maybe I missed it, or thought I read it, that it was actually extended out already last meeting?
No,
No.
It was a failed mission.
yeah, but I think if we do, you know, hire and do that, Lonnie, you made the suggestion, I think that's a really good one, is kind of continue the SMART goals, you know, put some more specific stuff to go out further into the future to identify those things that, you know, we'd like to see before. So that those expectations are finally very clear. Tom, it looked like you were gonna say something.
Oh, yeah, I'd be proponent to try and encourage her to stick around. Stability for the agency is really important. And then,
So if you can send the contract out to all the board members, we'll put that on our agenda build for the discuss next meeting
Okay.
formally.
Do you still want my resume as well?
I think it'd be good for us to have it.
Okay, I can do that.
Something there.
I do still propose a motion to extend her current contract to October, so she has an actual contract
Okay.
a valid contract right now.
So,
We're
let's see,
hiring.
so this is August, right? No, this is July.
July.
I'm just working in August, thanks.
Through October
So
31st.
August, September, and October, so end of October?
October 31st.
Yeah, so I moved to extend the contract to October 31st with the new salary level as discussed earlier in the meeting.
That was my motion.
A second, then I'm seconding Sarah's motion to do that.
All right, so we have Sarah making a
I know you're
motion.
looking for a motion.
I will make a motion. Mm,
A second,
I'll second.
Mike.
Yep.
Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
No,
One name. Okay. Anything else for not on the agenda? Okay. Item 13, public comment, limited to 10 minutes total. Anything from the public?
We have one.
So, hearing
Just
none,
Jennifer Boardman's email for.
Shelley's on there.
Oh, Shelley, do you have anything?
I think that's enough. So agenda build. Do you have a list of things that we kind of talked about for the next?
I do. I wasn't here for a big chunk, that's printing, but gotta bring back the bylaws and protocols.
Status on where we are on the.
Report.
Yeah. the
Quarterly
report.
report
There's-
update.
Yeah.
And the smart plus.
General manager
Contract review.
Contract,
bylaws and protocols.
Smart goals,
We had those.
check in.
I think that's what I had.
mhm.
Anything else for next meeting?
Yeah, I would say on the SMART goal piece, if you know, if you guys wanna just kind of think about some of those longer term things that we want to
Well,
do.
but by our next meeting, she'll have had to attain some of these, so. What am I gonna do?
Oh, that's
I
right,
checked
so we have
it
the civil rights plan and the Title VI plan
vehicle
are both coming into
maintenance
adoption in
program.
August.
And the vehicle maintenance program.
Is that good to the board?
Well, but if we're setting these goals for her, I
Well,
just
she
wanna
needs to
check
report
in
back
to see
to the
that
goals.
these are done.
Oh, right, okay, so,
That's what
okay,
I'm
check on
saying.
them, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought you were talking about agenda items, there's a couple items on here that were agenda
No, no,
items that
no,
are
no.
actually coming to the board.
So basically a review of Sparkle's status report.
And maybe that could be just part of the general
That
manager's
could be the
report.
general
Yeah,
manager.
just kind of reporting on some of where you're at on those.
Anybody else have anything? We're good to go? Okay, sounds good. Executive session, ORS, I am completely unaware of what this
I
is.
didn't-
I don't think it needs to be on there.
So-
And it'd be the wrong one anyway.
I let him know.
Yeah,
So I will pass on that.
I would just take those. What we used to do when I was on the city council is we used to keep it on every agenda, but unless there was a letter, you weren't, if there was a letter, you were having it and it was that section, but if it wasn't, then it just was none. But the other way, of course, doing it is just not have it unless you want it on there.
I'm okay with taking it off and putting it on as needed. when
Yeah, let's
you
just
guys-
take it off and we'll put it on when we need it. Okay, I guess last thing is adjourn.
Adjourn.
All right.